Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. In the wake of the major updates to the CDL team agreements yesterday, Scum has given his thoughts on the situation. No doubt a positive change for the league, but also clearly frustrated with the fact that it's taken this long to get to this point. This comes in the wake of the $680 million Scum and Hex lawsuit, and clearly Scum's still frustrated of the fact that Hex had to make the business decisions he did over the last couple of years based on these changes they're making. Nonetheless though, big positives for what the future of the league is potentially going to be. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, just wanted to clarify, the scoreboard for Codcaster has apparently been fixed, and we thought yesterday maybe it wasn't fixed, but actually the update hadn't dropped yet, and apparently Codcaster is back to working again, so yeah, I can't believe it, the amount of W's that arrived on basically the same day. Also wanted to quickly dive into the new weapons in Ranked. Well, new old weapons, the BB50, the Holger, among others, are now allowed. Now, well, they're rather strong, I think is the general perception at the moment, and they will be used now for a few days until I think April the 23rd, when Treyarch are going to run them in Sledgehammer's ranked mode, and then we shall see whether anything stays or anything goes. The problem is, I suppose, that from the professional player side, there's just no way they change the meta. I'll share this clip that Dashy says here in a couple of seconds, but basically Dashy's thoughts are, yeah, there's no way. We're using the rival, we're using the MCW, that ain't changing. Maybe there was a chance if this happens after Major 2 going into Major 3, there was a good couple of weeks. The guys did play around with the meta, but like once the qualifiers are back underway, the guys are just going to scrim with what they're currently using. They ain't going to try pulling out the BP50 or the Holger or the Ram9 or the HRM, even if it might make the game better and have more of a versatile meta, as it were. Probably not going to be the case. So Dashy had some thoughts on that. I'll share them in a second, but effectively nothing's going to be changing. What is changing though, of course, is within regard to the league, and we talked about this in depth yesterday, the major updates to the CDL team agreements to create what they call a stronger, more sustainable league, and there are genuinely lots of positives to dive into. We talked about it yesterday. Question is to me, what happens next in this case? What does it actually mean for what the league looks like next season? Because it's been a big question. Will the league even exist next year? The rumour that I was hearing a little while ago now is that, yeah, the league wasn't going away, but the structure of the league was going to change somewhat. And the whole idea of the franchise model now is, you know, not even called into question. It's effectively been eliminated because all the money that the teams had paid in is now going back to the teams. So anything they paid and anything they owed is now eliminated. So if the teams have effectively paid $0 to get into the league, then what is the value of the spots that they own? The theory was that the spot was worth $25 million. Clearly it's not, because they're getting all of that money refunded. So they still own a spot, the franchise teams, but, well, theoretically another team can come in very easily indeed, because it wouldn't cost the same amount that it was previously going to. But also, does this mean that we can go back to a more open circuit style system? Is it still franchise, but effectively in name only? I feel like there is more to come on this, and there are more developments. I said yesterday I would like to see changes as well to whether things have to be city-based anymore. I feel like inevitably that's going to go away, but maybe it takes some time for that to occur. The changes yesterday, like all of them, were positive, I think, for sure, but, you know, it didn't encompass everything that I would hope to see over the coming months. And especially that is with regard to what I expect to see or hope to see next season in terms of events. There's also been some arguments about, well, you know, the London team. Maybe it's a shame that Carolina have gone to Carolina and it's not London anymore, just when the possibility of, you know, more open events or more events in general, just because the league has confirmed they're increasing the subsidy for teams that organise LAN events. Arguably, the CDL should put more money into making that happen anyway, because they're the guys that make the money out of all this. The teams are struggling for every nickel and dime at the moment. But yeah, they will increase the subsidy for teams to host organisational events, and therefore, with any luck, they could do some in London. But there's no London team. But then again, maybe this could even be a positive, because Ravens, not the best organisation, shall we just say that? I think there's lots of evidence to support that over the last few years. So it's now possible that another organisation could come in and, you know, take the London spot if it's still going to be city-based, or simply be, you know, decide they're going to be the UK team, as Splice was back in the day, or as Fnatic was briefly in Infinite Warfare, or even, you know, Quadrant potentially, which is Lando Norris's team, who are, I believe, hosting the Halo event in London at the end of May. Potentially that's an option. So I guess we'll have to stay tuned. But like for several years now, it's been like, well, expansion's never going to make sense, because who's going to pay $25 million? Because, you know, we know that people were sold a bed of lies in terms of what they were getting for their money in the first place. And that's still one of the reasons why, despite the positive changes here, Scump is still frustrated, not necessarily at the future, but about the past. The fact that we've in some ways wasted 5 years of what was an incredibly well-trending Call of Duty League esports structure, and then we threw that all away, have effectively wasted 5 years, and now we're kind of learning from the mistakes that never needed to be made in the first place. So I can totally understand the frustration from both sides. Generally positive as far as I'm concerned, and hopefully we get more events next year. Hopefully we get more teams back in as well. I do wonder whether any of these guys would come back in. I know that Zenza tweeted this out yesterday. Organizations I'm missing: COD, Col, Team Caliber, E United, Evil Geniuses, among others. Of course, Heretics are now back in. Rise Nation as well. They're an organization, like their owners, like constantly would talk about getting involved in expansion. And now that seems like a possibility because you no longer have to have, theoretically, this major backing from billionaire owners to get your $25 million spots because, well, that money, just forget the 25 million ever existed. What that means for actually getting involved and, selecting the right partners to come in, because if the entry fee is effectively zero and it's still going to be kind of like a franchise structure where there are a select amount of teams, there would be lots of interest and many organizations to get involved in that, and there'd be lots of bids coming through. So they can only choose so many partners is maybe how I consider it going forwards. But also, because there's no franchise fee anymore, why does it stop us doing open events as we previously did? Because that was the whole point, that, well, if you paid 25 million, you're going to get your spot on the main broadcast. You're not going to have to share that with some amateur guys that haven't paid a penny, right? This was the whole grassroots thing, is that, well, it was possible for, myself and 3 of my boys to enter the open matches, win the open bracket, make it into pool play, and be on the main stream and potentially win the entire event. And that was just a great thing because you had players and storylines, even such as E United, among others, make great runs as a result of that. Certainly that, Gunless, RCT's, Silly and Priestahh team, they would not have been able to do what they did had we, been in the structure that we presently have. So they would never do that in the CDL era, or let's say the franchised era, because that would mean that there's one team that's paid all this money to have a spot and be on the broadcast, one team that's paid zero. It ain't gonna work, and that's the reason in part why we didn't have, Bravo, Charlie, Delta streams, all this stuff, and it created loads of problems. That is probably going to go away, at least to some large part. And this is also Jason Lakeride, of course, Complexity CEO, who, he tweeted out this, I don't know, maybe it wasn't related, but to me, given all the big announcements about COD, makes me feel like his discussion on catching the wave and getting the correct timing might be relevant to getting back involved in Call of Duty to some degree. But of course, the question is what happens next? Yes, there are positive changes, but is next year's league just what we have now? Is it still online qualifiers that nobody wants? Okay, some people want them, but realistically, it's not the best thing to do as far as I'm concerned. Is it still fewer lands than we should have? Do we still have 12 teams? These are the questions that need to be answered, and this is what Brian Stat says. Hopefully, we get some expansion, we get fewer online games, more weekends, 2Ks, 5Ks that everyone seems to want, and Scump talks about it as well. I won't share that specific clip, but, he talked about it elsewhere. More lands as well is what we would most certainly like to see. Hitch as well, also given the moment, gave his thoughts on what he would do to improve the league and effectively creating 4 leagues pretty much. It's, English Football League style, which is, of course, the best in an ideal world. Not necessarily easy or proper to execute, but the idea would be that you'd have 16 teams in the CDL, then you'd have challenges and everything down from that is console, and you'd have, various leagues where promotion relegation is possible. I do hope that we can get back to a system where promotion relegation is again a thing. And I think that we're as close now as we've ever been in the last 5 years to actually making that happen again. What the owners think about that is still a question, even if they've got all their money back, as it were. So this is what Scump has to say. Clearly some positivity in here about what the future of the leagues are going to look like, but also some frustrations with relation to the big lawsuit that they're bringing against the league.
Good hands.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wait, Brandon, there's got to be a 0.0% chance you guys use any of these guns, right?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I'm still like, one shot FCW. One shot. Nice.
Hard suck MCW and shit.
I'm just, everyone's absolute though. I got him.
You're whistling at your rival players. Yo, come here.
Yo, I got you with the free kill. They're all one shot. Follow me.
Very good news. This one's kind of crazy off the rip. Number one's a big one. Outstanding entry fees will be eliminated, and any fees previously collected from teams will be returned in full. Oh, hell no. Okay. Now, one thing I will say, guys, this is good. Okay, this is a W, but are we just forgetting that owners of teams and people made sacrifices because this was initially put out? Like, let's not oversee, like, people made business decisions around this entry fee. So it's, you know, yeah, it's good. Any fees previously collected from teams will be returned in full. While we paused collection of these payments years ago, we are permanently removing this obligation while also injecting capital back into the league. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy already, man. Like, this alone is fucking crazy. I mean, obviously there was a $25 million buy-in fee. For that to just be completely eliminated after 5 years, I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's fucking nuts. Let people run, like, tournaments. Like, because it's so locked up right now, like, you have to get permission to run tournaments. And most of the tournaments that we get are content creator tournaments or 2v2s. Like, you can never play with your full team. And I'm getting to the point, 2Ks, 5Ks, shit like that. Dude, that stuff, having it every single weekend. I mean, in a perfect world, we get expansion, right? We get at least 4 more teams in, at least, right? So we get 4 more teams, that's 16. There are hosted open events at the actual majors that get you in. Did you tell your stream you're coming back? Dude, you're such a fucking troll. I'm not coming back. Listen, this does not mean I'm coming back.
So I think you can certainly hear in there from Scump why this lawsuit, especially from the Hex side, was brought against Activision Blizzard, because Hex effectively alleged in the suit that he was forced into making business decisions that he shouldn't have had to do, you know, partnering with NRG as it initially was to have their backing, and then of course the move with Envy. And I did see some comments actually on yesterday's video discussing this, that it's a shame really that there have been casualties of the CDL era, even if we go back to a CWL style, although it's still probably going to be called the Call of Duty League, but, you know, an open circuit style format where there are maybe partnered teams, effectively, because 2019 in Black Ops 4 was like pseudo franchising. They selected the league teams, they didn't really do the promotion relegation stuff, but open tournaments still happened and people could still play at opens and potentially still win open events. So it was kind of like a hybrid system, and I'd probably prefer even what it was previously to that. Let's say like in World War II or something, I think was a pretty good year, despite the fact that the game wasn't especially fun, I would say. But what we did at least have in that era was all the organizations as they were. Because we've wasted time, and because, you know, the CDL has happened in the way that it has, there have been casualties and organizations that have gone. Envy is a big example, right? Because as Scump is kind of implying, if Hex and OpTic didn't have to partner with Envy to make these decisions happen, Envy as an organization, the E-Classico, OpTic versus Envy, that would still be happening, you know, that would still be a great rivalry, I imagine. But it's now gone because of the decisions that were forcibly made. So it's almost like Scump wants a bit of an apology, right? Okay, the apology that he wants is monetary, right, based on the lawsuit, rather than anything in words. But yeah, he's like, look, you wasted our time and our money by doing this, and it's ruined a fair few things. So the question, I guess, then is, do we get a more open circuit style format run by third parties? We talked yesterday that Overactive Media's press release implied this may happen, and this has been the theory for some time, that effectively ESL may well take over running lots of the events. That may not happen for the near term, that may not happen immediately next year, but that is the theory. And actually, you know, Scoots actually says here yesterday, all those years of wasted investment of BS franchising only to hand the running of your esports over to a third party or country, basically in Saudi Arabia, right? And that's what we're going to discuss in a second here with the Esports World Cup, which was, well, I think already confirmed, but there was a press release done on this yesterday, the $60 million plus Esports World Cup. There will be no call at this yet, and that is the key point. And while there was always going to be controversy around this, the money isn't going away, and you can see here there are 19 titles at effectively the Esports World Cup. I think they want to make this a yearly thing, and they will bring as many games in as they can. And we have seen Counter-Strike, Apex, Dota 2, League of Legends, Overwatch 2. Basically, all the games are going to be represented there in some form. And I don't know if COD is going to come this year, but I think that it's probably only a matter of time at this point, because if Overwatch is there, then it seems an inevitability. And actually, this was noted yesterday, that when Esports World Cup confirmed this in their press release, Toronto Ultra reposted it. So it definitely feels, and also Toronto were the organisation that said about the licensed third-party tournaments. So to me, this is the step that it is taking. I think this has been obvious for some time. And I'm sure there will be pros, I'm sure there will be cons, but fundamentally to me, COD Esports will continue to exist in a format which is likely to be significantly more favourable than we've seen for the last several years. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.